home state, has almost 40 million books in its library. There were less than 5 literary translations from Indonesia. You know, that kind of just was a real slap in the face for me. I mean, I had fallen in love with Indonesia at this point, and Indonesia was then the 5th largest country in the world. It's now the 4th largest country in the world in terms of population. The largest Muslim country in terms of religion, and yet none of the ideas, none of the things that I had come to love about Indonesia are appearing in the libraries in the United States. And so, along with 4 Indonesian writers, I established the Longkok Foundation. If you know the word longkok, it's a kind of palm tree. It's the material on which the first books were made in Indonesia. And the purpose of this is what we're talking about, is to change. If we can't change that traffic, at least join the traffic in English, and ideas that were born in Indonesia, present them in English to the foreign audience. So over the years, over the 25 years that we've existed, we've translated works by more than 250 authors into English, 100 or more titles, separate titles, but 250 authors. And I can't tell you, I think that Max talks about the emails that he gets about his translations. The same thing happens to me. People who have come to Indonesia and happen to find a book by an Indonesian author, and what we call it is this letter saying, "Thank you for bringing this into English." You know, I had no idea Indonesians thought such things. You know, this is a true contribution. And so the purpose of our, we started last 2 years ago, we started a series called the Modern Library in Indonesia series. It sounds a little bit like the classic Singapore series. The purpose of which is to bring out, I hope within 5 years we'll have at least 50 titles, but eventually at least 100 titles, ranging from 1895 up to the contemporary. So trying to get most of the most important works into English. Maybe they will only be read by 200 people, maybe by 500 people, maybe by 1,000 people. Maybe they will be discovered and take off, or maybe someone will say, "Hey, this will make a great film, a great Hollywood film," and we'll get things known that way. But that's what we're working on, and I think that's what each of the Southeast Asian countries should be doing. I mean, and not only to go to the United States and to Europe, but to open the borders within the Southeast Asian region. I would love for Singaporeans to know more about Indonesians, and Indonesians to know more about Singapore. And what better way is there than through translation and through literary translation? Not too long ago, I wrote a think paper called, it was almost like Why Language Matters. It was called In the Language of God. And if we can count, let's say, the Bible or the Quran as literary works, I mean, who can deny the influence that these works of literature have had on world cultures? And yet Indonesia, I just said, is the largest quote-unquote Islamic country in the world. But I said, what I said at the beginning, I asked at the beginning of the paper, what is the language of God? Is it Arabic? Is it Jewish or Hebrew? Is it English? And then at the end of the paper, I closed with the statement that it obviously was not Malay. Had it come down, had the language of God come down to the Malay archipelago, I think that is where it would have stayed, and we would not have a major religion around the world today. And so, it's tongue-in-cheek, this was, but I hope, and I wrote this for policymakers in Indonesia, and I hope they get it. And I think if you're here today, obviously would like to hear what my fellow speakers have to say.